Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everybody.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer tips, insights, ideas, and examples for how small, emerging, and challenger CPG, consumer packaged goods, brands can build their business. Everything from determining if you're ready to grow, where to start, how to prove it online, how to go about securing distribution at a national retailer, driving your business with the end consumer, and how to go about finding an investor if that's important to you. The bottom line is, we would love to help you be successful by highlighting the many important factors that go into establishing and growing your brand.
Bruce and I have been working in CPG commercial operations for over 30 years, working on brands of all sizes. By commercial operations, we mean sales, marketing, trade marketing, new product development, broker and distributor management, new product development, brand M&A, and financing. As a part of our show, we bring our guests that are brand founders and leaders, agencies, Amazon specialists, sales agents, contract manufacturers, retailers, and investors to discuss their experiences and share their insights with the audience.
To keep up with the show, please subscribe to the Road to Retail podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Leave us a review and consider sharing the show with a friend or colleague that may benefit from the content. You can also check out our website to learn more at www.road2retail.com and follow The Road to Retail on LinkedIn. We would love to have you along for the ride. Looking to scale or launch your supplement or skincare brand? Eagle Labs Incorporated, based in Florida, offers full-service NSF-certified contract manufacturing of capsules, tablets, powders, liquids, gummies, and lotions. All of their manufacturing takes place in the USA. From R&D and formulation to packaging and fulfillment, Eagle Labs provides scalable, high-quality production that meets FDA and NSF standards. To learn more, contact Michael Law, Chief Commercial Officer at Eagle Labs at michael.law@eaglelabsinc.com, EAGLELABSINC, Michael Law, eaglelabs.com, or text him at 203-242-6417. Today's show is sponsored by Retail and Response. You've heard it a million times on this podcast. It's not about getting your product on the retail shelf. It's about moving product off the shelf and hitting the retailer's sales velocity hurdles fast. Otherwise, they're going to begin the discontinuation process. Trust me. A slow sales start can be fatal to your brand. You need consumers coming in seeking your brand. You know, the one they heard about on radio or saw on TV. If you think radio or TV advertising is too expensive, you need to speak with our friends at Retail and Response. With over 30 years helping drive hundreds of millions of dollars of sales for their clients, Retail and Response can get your brand on radio and TV for pennies on the dollar. Check them out at retailandresponse.com. That's retailandresponse.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Road to Retail. We've got an exciting episode today. Bruce, it's great to see you.
Hello, Tracy. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, fantastic. So tell us a little bit before we jump in, a little bit about today's sponsor.
Today's sponsor is from the SKUpe. SKUpe. Running a retail business means making nonstop decisions. Inventory, staffing, marketing, technology. The SKUpe is the weekly newsletter designed to help you make smarter calls faster. Curated by industry experts, the SKUpe delivers clear, trustworthy insights on what's working for small and mid-sized retailers today. Join 20,000 owners and operators who rely on it to stay sharp and ahead of the game. Subscribe at theskupe.co. That's theskupe.co, and it's SKUpe, SKUPE. Thanks again to our latest sponsor. Tracy, who do we have here?
Very exciting episode today. We have Jake Nelson, and Jake is the newly appointed general manager of ZT Distribution. And today we're going to talk all about what it means to work with a regional distributor. So before we jump into our topics today, Jake, tell our audience a little bit about your background and how you got started in the distribution business.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk about, what we do here. I've worked at grocery stores since I was like 14, at Kroger, the pick and saves up here in Wisconsin, running departments and then running stores. I was in asset protection for a little bit. And then before I came to ZT, I was running the largest store in Wisconsin for Roundy's up here. And came to ZT. It's something different, right? So I didn't know what a regional distributor really did. I know what ZT stocked on my shelves, and that's about it. But we're family owned, and there's a lot of opportunity to grow here, and the people I work with and work for are phenomenal. So that's kind of what led me here, and there's so much to learn and so much to do, and we're so busy. So I love it.
That's
awesome.
great. So Jake, tell us a little bit about ZT's business and the role your firm and firms like yours play in bringing products to market. A lot of our small emerging challenger brands, some of them may be looking for a distributor for the first time ever and have no clue. So if you can kind of level set, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So ZT's been around for, I want to say, since 1919. The owner we have today, his great grandfather started the business, and he was selling cigarettes and candy out of Sprinter vans to bars and restaurants. And from there, there were great brands, local brands that needed distribution to get into the grocery stores. And, the business kind of shifted where, restaurants were making their own food. So we got away from that. And, we really shifted gears in over 100 years, right? And a lot of relationships and a lot of things we tried and failed, to bringing CPG products or consumer packaged good products to the shelves. And what we do that's different than going direct to a warehouse is we have the relationships with the retailers. We are constantly in communication with them. And we pioneer brands. That's what we've done. That's how we were built, right? So that's always going to be part of us. And now we just have some really staple brands that the stores need that force us to be in the stores 7 days a week. Taking care of our customers.
Great.
That's great. So let's jump in here a little bit. So now as the new general manager and former brand manager, tell us a little bit about like what you look for in emerging brand before you would, consider taking them into distribution.
I mean, the first thing, and it sounds like kind of cliche, but it's got to taste good and it's got to look good, right? If it doesn't do those things, then we really don't consider it. But after that, really like the deeper thing is making sure there's a trend or a category behind it, right? I always have to look at it, and what we look at is where's it going to go on the shelf? Is pricing line up with the rest of the category? And, we can guide like certain things. One of the things we really need is, promotional packages, marketing strategies, things like that. We can help guide those things, but really the brands need to be funded to be able to do that, right? They need to have enough margin for themselves, enough margin for us to be able to take care of our customers. So hopefully that kind of answers it, but that's what we're looking for. Really, it tastes good, looks good, and there's some funding behind it where it can find a home on the shelf and customers will pick it up and try it.
So Jake, following up on that, what tells you that a brand is ready for retail distribution and ready to do business with ZT? So I hear you on, does it taste good, look good, or if it's a health and beauty product, is it effective? But, Tracy and I, we've run into lots of small emerging brands and things like, do you have a good case pack? Is your packaging actually easy to find? It might be great at the farmer's market when your friends can spend 5 minutes holding your box and reading it. But what about the person who's got two little kids hanging in the cart yelling and screaming? So what do you guys look for that tells you a brand is really ready to up their game and go to retail?
Absolutely. I think they need to be able to identify who their target consumer is and that they have realistic expectations for their brand, right? It depends on what the product is, but, there's nothing that appeals to everyone. So it's them knowing, what that business looks like in Wisconsin, and I can help tell them, these are the retailers we service and this is how often we'll take care of it. But the realistic expectations and actually, being able to think through, take that feedback and, apply it to what they're doing is crucial, So I guess that's the biggest thing is, some flexibility and really have an understanding of who's going to buy their product and how we can help that consumer.
So kind of a follow-up thought to that. So a brand comes to you and they're like, we have a little theory called My Baby's Beautiful. So they come to you and they're like, hey, Jake, my expectation is that you're going to grow my brand to $5 million this year, and I'm going to be in, 2,000 stores. What do you think? So what do you say to that? Because to me, those are a little unrealistic expectations.
Well, yeah, I don't even think the population of Wisconsin is 8 million people, right? And the kids and anyone under the age of 18 isn't buying their own groceries. So, I kind of put things in perspective like that. And I lay out like what retailers control the market in Wisconsin, right? I mean, the biggest market shares are, Kroger, Walmart, and they're the two hardest to get into for an emerging brand and a brand we're going to pioneer, right? So if 50% of the market goes to those two retailers, 50% of the customers are off the table. So it's a realistic expectation. How can we grow the business where we know the customer, in a specialty shop, we know they're going to resonate with that product? How can we grow it, together, scale it, and then have data behind it to show Kroger and Walmart's, hey, we can get into these stores, they will sell. But, we have to find the right niche for the product to be able to build a case reason to bring it into those stores, if that makes sense.
So what you're saying is not every product is a perfect fit for every retailer in Wisconsin.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So Jake, following up on that, what questions do you ask an emerging brand or what upfront research would you like to see from them when considering them into distribution? So you covered a little bit, but some examples might be, hey, you have to have confidence in their supply chain. Do they have funding to actually fill orders and drive demand? Do they have a well-vetted, contract manufacturer? What are the other things so that you and your team don't go, oh boy, these guys were not ready?
Yeah. I absolutely, the first step is, what they're doing in other markets, right? And then that kind of helps us level set, what they're doing, right? There's a brand, and I'll say it even, I love the guy. It's Babe Beverages. He does kombucha and yerba mate tea. We just signed him. He's not in Wisconsin yet, coming soon. But, he does really well in San Diego, right? So when Vinny and I were talking, we're like, this is how we can apply it to Wisconsin, right? We're not going to see San Diego numbers with the yerba mate in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So it's level setting and him understanding that, absolutely they know their competition, they know the pricing, and they know how they can fit into that pricing structure. And he has to be able to fund that, right? He has to be able to fund some scan backs. He needs to be able to fund some promotions and, support us with good marketing tools. A nice website is really important for me. Really nice website, a really nice sell sheet, nice looking packaging. And then at least some trial runs. Like I always want to see something like, even if it's not, direct to a distributor, like some direct to customer sales, some vending sales, something that just backs that there's demand for it on top of, just a good tasting product, a good looking product, right? Data is really important and really good marketing tools are really important. And I always ask those questions. Who's manufacturing for you? Is it in-house? What's the lead times? What's the minimum order quantities? Those are all things that play factors into it.
No, those are very helpful answers for people to hear directly from a firm like yours that is going to consider taking them on up in Wisconsin. Tracy?
Yeah. So let's talk in general, just what's the best way for a brand to work with a distributor? What you mentioned marketing and things like that, but what other things that come to mind, like training, promotions you mentioned. So in general, and then you can talk specifically to ZT, what's the best way to work with you guys?
Yeah, I think it has to be hand in hand. You know what I mean? We have, a limited amount of resources, right? We have over 50 sales reps, but it's limited, right? And we have brands that are established that are doing millions of dollars in business and brands that we're pioneering. So for brands that are pioneering and try to work with us, I think being hand in hand, it's not necessarily a requirement to have resources in the field, but that's certainly something that intrigues me about a brand when they say, hey, we have resources in the field, offering up assistance to hop on calls and educate them on the brand, right? Being able to call out their differentiation from everything else in the category, right? A lot of times brands come in and we're like, we're the next, Lay's potato chip. They don't necessarily say that, but they compare it to something that has a lot of brand recognition and value. And they're like, we're the same. And I'm like, yeah, but you're the same and you're $2 more expensive. And people aren't going to know what you're on the shelf, right? So,
right.
If there's something that differentiates them, we need to make that really crystal clear to our sales team, and then how they can support us get that information to the customer, so the customer is willing to give them a shot on the shelf. That's what they need to do to help us, right? Partnering with account calls when we're going to meet with the Roundy's Kroger buyer, we're meeting with the Festival Foods buyers, the Woodman's buyers, offering up those resources and the education is what they need to do for us. And then, flexibility. If it's, hey, we need a lower minimum order quantity or we need product quick, right? That flexibility is crucial to us too, to be able to flex and make things happen on a dime.
So a couple of things there, folks, that you've heard before on the shows Tracy and I do with people. Differentiation is key. Firms like Jake's can't help you if you're the 19th pretzel, right? You need something different about your product. And then the other thing, as we talk about, we say don't be needy as a small emerging brand. You also have to be flexible. You have to be flexible. You can't, to use his analogy of Lay's, you can't carry on like you're PepsiCo when you're really Bruce and Tracy's awesome company. You need to be flexible and easy to do business with. So Jake, I think you've covered a lot of this, but before we press into some of the more nuts and bolts, is there anything else a brand just has to get right in order to be successful with you guys? An example might be, and Tracy has a few war stories here, don't blow your first order. It needs to be full, on time, no damages, no dented cases, etc. What else is just, right there? What do you guys, you got to get started smoothly.
Yeah, samples, right? Cans in hands or product to people's mouths, right? Samples are extremely crucial, right? And you can't be stingy with them. That's the first thing we do with every meeting, right? Is we bring them something, right? That we never go to a store or make a call at a corporate office without having something in hand for them to eat or drink. And it won't be your brand if we don't have it on hand, able to give it to them, right? And so that's one of the major things. In addition to, right, no dented cans, good presentation, fill the first order in full. Things happen in the supply chain, I get it, but the first order, I don't want a brand to say, hey, we have 5 SKUs, but the first one we can only fill 3 right now, right? I'm not even going to go to a retailer and say, here are the 5 SKUs, but we only have 3 available. Yeah. So we need to have the first initial PO full, right? We need to have enough to support a pipeline fill.
So what Jake's saying, folks, is if you have a fumble right from the start, you're putting your brand and Jake's firm on their back foot because they're playing defense right away, and you're sending signals that you might not be ready for prime time. Another thing Jake said, if your product lends itself to it, the importance of sampling and demos. There's nothing as effective if your product is the kind that can be sampled or demoed than really reducing that first economic risk, quote unquote, of the first purchase. People, even if it's only a couple of bucks, it's like, well, why would I buy this? I have no idea if it'll taste good. Well, remove that barrier. All right, Tracy.
Absolutely. So what kind of requirements or capabilities does a brand have to work with ZT? So talk to us a little bit about insurance requirement or W-9, EDI capability. What kinds of things does the brand really have to work with you?
Yeah, I mean, insurance, it's pretty standard, right? I have when a brand comes to me, I have a sample CO or certificate of insurance for them that I send that they typically kind of replicate with their insurance agency. But it's $2 million general liability insurance is what we need to protect ourselves from if a truck backs up into our dock and breaks something, or God forbid, something even worse, right? But that's the protection we need, and then that's what we carry for the retailers as well. We don't need EDI capabilities here, but that's something that they do need, and other distributors for sure. And then just another call that I'm thinking of, like when I first onboard a brand and the paperwork we have, a lot of distributors will have like slotting fees. We do too. Ours are very minor, and flex. We try to be flexible and make it work, right? But other distributors surely have slotting fees that you need to consider too. If you want them to bring in 12 SKUs, you could be looking at north of $10,000 probably in some cases. Not here, but in some places, that's the dollar amount you'd be looking at. So that's something to consider as well.
So the
And
slotting, so that's a great point for our emerging brand. So the slotting is not exactly for you, even though you said you have a small amount, but it's the requirement of the retailer, which could be a free fill or 50% off or a dollar amount. Is that correct? I just want to.
Yeah, well, absolutely both, right? Retailers certainly do it across the board, right? They'll charge a free fill, or they'll charge, a dollar amount to have your product on the shelf. But then distributors too, right? To be slotted in their warehouse, storage things when you're pioneering stuff, right? That real estate isn't free or cheap either. So, a lot of them will charge just to have the spot in their warehouse. Especially when you're pioneering a brand, right? Because sometimes you're going to have to bring a certain amount in to make sure both parties are profitable. But it's going to sit there in some cases, right? Obviously, that's not the goal, but depending on how much you have, that real estate costs money, just like it does on the shelf, right?
Sure. It's not
That
free.
it does. So Jake, talk to us a little bit about the specific services ZT provides to a brand. Again, a lot of people have never worked with a distributor before. They understand at a macro level, oh, they help make my product available. But do you guys collect the cash? Do you handle disputes? Give a little color on the services you guys provide.
Yeah, I'll try to kind of walk through the whole, step by step, how we go to business, right? I mean, we place the orders to make sure we have the product in our warehouse ready for distribution. From there, we have a ton of human resources that have relationships with these regional buyers, store managers, decision makers in these chains that are going out and consistently selling your product to these buyers. So a lot of my planning and my team's planning is, where is this product not being sold? How can we sell it there? Leveraging the suppliers and the brands to help us come up with a plan, a go-to-market plan in those retailers. And after we have that, we have a sales team of commissioned sales reps. Like I said, over 50 of them. And what they do is they go into the stores and they look at the shelves and they see what we need to order and they place orders right from our warehouse to the stores. We have a warehouse team that will pick the product from our warehouse, right? They'll throw it on pallets and then the trucks will deliver it the next day to those stores at the back door. Our drivers will then invoice the stores at the back door. The stores will check it in and receive it. And then our sales reps will take the product in the back door of the stores and stock it to the shelf, build displays, sell in extra displays, right? They're all salespeople that are hungry to sell at the back in the stores, right? And the job's not done till it goes to the register, right? So they'll maintain it the whole time there. They'll check inventory, they'll rotate it, the whole 9 yards. And then, yeah, when we're getting paid, we handle all the receivables, right? So we get paid not by the suppliers, not by the brands, but by the retailers paying us on their terms for the product, right? We fully guarantee everything that we sell at ZT Distribution. So everything we bring into a retailer, it's either going to sell or we're going to take it back, right? They're not going to end up losing any money on anything ZT brings them. The only risk they have is us collecting dust on the shelf. So we have to make sure we display our stuff nicely and, have our hands on it and our eyes on it all the time. If that answers that, yeah.
No, that's great. So one other follow-up here, Jake, can you help people understand, again, especially for the people that are not veterans of CPG, your guys' view on exclusivity? And I'll help you. It's almost impossible unless you're Coke, Pepsi, P&G. But Can you just talk a little bit about, why that's actually in the brand's best interest if you guys have some extra juice in a category?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's one that if we don't have, it's extremely, when you bring on, essentially getting a raise every time they bring you on. So they have more product to bring to the stores. And without the exclusive rights, if they're selling it at one store and then across the street they can't sell it there, the sales team doesn't buy in, right? So you don't have the same passion that the brands that have the exclusive rights. And in addition, retailers certainly don't want to be calling on 5 different distributors to service one brand, right?
No
They want
way.
one point of contact. They want one sheet of new item forms and promotion forms. You run into a lot of issues where, if we share brands in the market, we'll get our paperwork in on team, we'll take care of the product, but you don't know what the other distributor is going to do. It's a huge headache to manage 5 different houses execution, right? In addition to the retailers don't want to do that either, right? They want one point of contact. So that's really why we want the exclusive rights. It has everything to do with ease for our customer and customer service.
Completely agree. But just to be clear, we lost you there for 1 second. An emerging brand, it's really illogical for them to expect category exclusivity from a firm like yours or really any distributor of any heft.
Oh we wouldn't we wouldn't do that. Because there's different kind of, we have different types of tea that cater to different types of customers, and different kind of consumers are going to pick it up. So we wouldn't put
Exactly.
ourselves in a foothold like that for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
The one thing I wanted to clarify here that you said so that our audience understands that. So about your services. So, and just confirm this. So in our language, it would be you're a DSD distributor, direct store delivery. So you're not just taking it to the store and putting it in the back room and hoping that the clerk then gets it on the shelf. You're actually delivering it and putting it on the shelf and monitoring inventory and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're seeing it through to the register. We have a team of 5 district managers that are ensuring the execution at the store level for the brand. Our team gets paid commission, like I said. So if the product doesn't go through the register and they pick it up, that hurts their commission. It's not Johnny the stock boy at Walmart that's putting your product up, right? These are salespeople, and that's the biggest thing for us, right? It's our team's passion and the care they put into the brands for sure.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
Good. So we talked on it a little bit, but talk to us about how does a brand get set up at ZT? So talk to us a little bit about the process, the paperwork required. So I come to you, I'm a small emerging brand. I present it, I send you sell sheet and samples. You say, great, we want to do this. Where does it go from? What's the process? And a big question for our audience today is, how long does that take to get set up?
Exactly. Timing.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think the time frame is, depends, right, on the demand for the product. We certainly work a lot faster when it comes to, if a retailer says, hey, we want this product and we want it now, right? Our customers are looking for us, we need it. The steps are, like you said, right? We have an agreement, a standard distribution agreement that kind of calls out a lot of stuff we talk about, right? It clarifies the margin we need. It clarifies our exclusive territory. It calls out everything we need in that. And, I can touch on some of it. Some of it I don't necessarily want to, but, we are, that agreement's crucial because then we know we're locked in. And once we have that agreement, then the kind of things we need are, UPCs, cases per pallet, minimum order quantities, delivered pricing, we work backwards from what the price, I always recommend we're talking pricing, instead of, you kind of have to work backwards from what you want to be on the shelf. Right. And I always help the brands identify which chains they're likely going to do well in, and then what those chains margin requirements are from previous experience. Right. There's some that are going to be at 40% and some that'll go all the way down to 20%. So we always have to kind of work backwards with the pricing there And I always want to make sure that brands give themselves enough margin to be able to afford our services and be able to promote and, do the things like I was talking about that are so crucial, which is, bodies in the market, marketing supplies, things like that too, right? So we talked through all of that. There's a standard like new item form that calls out everything I'm talking about, dimensions for the product. We get all that loaded up into our system. It could take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just depending on, the urgency of getting that product in the market. And then, once we have some retailer commitments, we have the item information into the retailers, and they all have different requirements too for how long it'll take them from getting the paperwork they need to actually having it in their system. So it could be a 2-3 month process to actually start to finish getting product on the shelf at retailers. But once we have all that in place, we place a purchase order, send it to the brand, then they ship the product, and then we get to work. And that's the fun part of the whole thing is once we start getting on the shelf, we get pictures and customers trying it and getting their feedback.
So Jake, a quick follow-up here. Is it safe to say that your firm can also tell these brands by retailer what the success metrics are? Like, this is the sales rate you're going to need to be hitting. And you need to be hitting it within this period of time. And these are the other key components of their scorecard of what will either get you looked at in a positive or negative light. I mean, I just want to make, because if someone's a CPG veteran, they kind of know all this stuff. You guys know the specifics because you know the account. But if you're brand new to CPG pursuing an entrepreneurial dream, they might be like, what's a hurdle rate, Jake? What do you mean I don't get to stay in there for 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in every chain's so different, right? Because some of them really care about the volume and some of them care about the margin, right? So the best way to tell is just how many units are going through the register per week, I think is the most successful thing. If you see it's going through the register at a steady rate, you feel pretty good about it as long as you know that the retailers are making healthy margin. But some of the retailers we have, they're money hungry, right? They need to see spend in addition to just turns at the back door, right? Or at the register rather. They need to see, spend an ad. They need to see, some digital coupons. They need to see, some kind of effort there too, because they also understand some of these brands are small local brands or emerging brands, right? You're not going to sell the same amount as Coke 12 packs, but if they see that you're able to invest and you're willing to grow your business and take feedback, that's how you stay on the shelf. If you just like, hey, what I'm doing is what I'm going to do, and we're not selling product through the register, I don't think you can expect to be on the shelf very long. And if you're not on the shelf, you don't need us.
No, it's a performance business, and as sales and marketing people, the report card comes out every day or week in terms of sales, and every month when the syndicated IRI or Nielsen data or spins hits. So you touched on this a little bit, but maybe, and you don't have to get into percentages, but talk to the people about how does ZT or any distributor get paid? Give them a sense of, you talked a little bit about the time lag and the services you provide, and we collect the money, and then, but just help people understand how you guys get compensated for your efforts.
Absolutely. Yeah. So on a weekly basis, mostly weekly basis, we send statements out to the retailers that we invoiced and delivered product to, and then they will pay us back. They'll pay us on their terms. Every retailer is different, right? But like standard is net 30 for, most accounts, right? And so they'll pay us, and the way we make money and the way we're profitable is our margin, right? What we charge on top of what we buy it for. And that's how we get paid, make money. But the retailers are the ones paying us directly, whether it's via check, some of them do ACH, some of them EDI, right? There's a whole plethora of ways that we get paid from the retailers. But yeah, it's from the retailers that are paying us.
But then once you settle with the retailers, kind of the leftover goes to the brand, right?
Yeah, we would pay the brand when we get the PO, right? So we purchase the POs and we pay the brands for their product.
There you go.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. That's very helpful for people to understand how a firm like yours gets paid. And
Yeah.
as Tracy pointed out earlier, the potential time lags. It's not like, hey, I'm going to be set up in a week and I'm going to start making a ton of dough in 8 days.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Doesn't quite work that way.
yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So just to clarify, that margin that you charge, the brand is basically to cover your services. That's your profitability, to cover the DSD and all the other things that you do, calling on the retailer and things like that. So that's awesome. So talk to our audience a little bit, and we touched on a little bit about the importance of marketing support and what kind of marketing vehicles does a brand really just have to be successful. And I know it does vary by retailer, but just give us a general sense of what you're looking for when a brand comes to you and says, hey, I want to do business with you.
Yeah, I think a really nice website and then a deck that has data on it, right? And I'm not saying it needs to be millions of dollars, but it's showing some growth, right? The graph has to be going like this instead of the other way, right? So we need to have some data showing that there's demand. In addition to, one of the most crucial things to me is, having shipper displays, having racks, having some kind of, merchandising tool that we can offer the retailers in addition to just being on the shelf, right? A point of interruption is really important, to make sure there's trial at the store level as well. And again, like marketing support, like digital assets are important for, in this time where digital coupons are becoming way more important, investing in things like that. All of that is very, very crucial. In addition to like cooler clings or, shelf talkers, which are just like little things you put on the shelf that'll, come off the shelf and call out the brand. Right. Anything that can make your brand stand out and be a point of interruption when customers make a decision at the store.
Because they only have 30 seconds, like Bruce mentioned. Your kids are screaming in the cart, and you've got probably less than that to make a decision on what you want to buy.
They look at what it looks like and the price, really, right? I think there's numbers that say it's like under 5 seconds they know what they're going to grab. It's immediate.
Yeah.
Yep. And that also gets into, the importance of being available and clear communication, because as much as being an old brand manager, I hate to admit this, many people have a substitute item in mind if they can't find immediately what they're looking for. So those are just sales opportunities missed. All right, Jake, we're heading toward home plate here. So who has had the biggest influence on your career, and what did this person do for you that has stuck with you over time? And you're like, man, I'm really lucky they did that for me.
I have maybe an interesting answer. I mean, I was kind of management at a young age, right? And someone told me you're not mean enough, or you're not, you're not this. And then I had bosses that led genuine, and they taught me like, hey, you got to just be yourself and be genuine and have tough conversations when you have to, right? But you have to be yourself. I had old store managers, and Scott, the owner here, he's a genuine guy, right? He has a tough conversations. He talks from experience. And he lays it out. So I'd say all those genuine leaders in front of me were the ones that, kind of taught me to lead my own voice, right? Anything I tell a brand isn't, well, my boss doesn't like this, or this person said this. It's right. Like from my experience, I don't know if this is going to work. Or when I lead the team, I never say, Scott's expecting this. It's like, I'm expecting this. And this is why it's important to our brands, why it's important to our retailers, why it's important to me, So just the genuine leaders I've had, Scott, most importantly, right? Right now I work for the guy, so I'd be crazy not to answer Scott, but he's been great. He's a great guy. I love him. So,
well, he's listening in. So well played, Jake. Well played.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Especially with your recent promotion. Good job.
Yeah. Can you guys clip that one for me and send it to me? That's
absolutely. So here's our fun question as we, round third and head to home. So tell us who your favorite football team, band, or brand is, and why.
I'll go with football team, and I'd be crazy not to say the Packers. We just had the draft here, and we sold a whole ton of snacks for that. But Yeah, I'm a cheesehead for sure. I love going up to Green Bay for the games, and I'm one of those that's -5 degrees up here in Wisconsin, and I'll be at the football stadium watching them. So
That's
So,
exciting.
so Jake, there's a very, very critical follow up here that you picked the Packers. I kind of thought that might be where you go. So I say this with doom in my voice. With the new Pope being from Chicago, do you think he will put a curse on the Packers? Yes or no?
I'm already questioning that guy. It sounds like he's a Sox fan, which is even worse than being a Cubs fan. So no way, no way he's cursing the Packers. He needs to bless the Chicago sports teams first.
Okay, I thought, oh brother, my brother is a huge Bears fan, and I thought the Pope will take care of my brother. This is excellent. Well, Jake, thank you so much. All right, Tracy. Oh, Jake, one thing. How can people get in touch with you to learn more about the services of ZT?
Yeah, our website, which is just ztdist.com. So our website has an info link where you can reach out and just kind of put an inquiry in. Our address is widely available, right? A lot of times people, they can send that info link and they send samples right away. So I come in sometimes if I get in a little bit later and my desk is full of samples. The stuff that looks good is the ones I'm going to go follow up and say, hey, I need to find where this brand came from, who sent this to me. So samples and my LinkedIn, is always a great answer as well. My email's full of them already. So my email's jakeen@ztdist.com. If you need to show something, get something in front of me, that's a good way to do it. And then either me or someone from the team will reach out and get some more information on it.
All right, Jake. Well, thank you so much. All right, Tracy, the big finish.
Absolutely, Jake. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think our audience learned a lot about regional distributor and specifically about ZT. And I will just tell you, I do business with you, and I really enjoy working with you. So I'll give you a little plug there. But thanks for joining us today on this episode. Please continue to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, also on LinkedIn, and then also our website, www.road2retail.com. And thanks again, Jake, for joining us. And this has been a great episode, and we enjoyed it. And good to see you again, Bruce, my friend.
Thanks, Tracy, and thanks to the SKUpe and their sponsorship. Good luck out there, folks.
Thanks so much.